It just takes like 5 seconds. All right, guys, we're live. Welcome, John.
What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm great, man. So, everybody, this is John Kitchens. John, you want to just introduce yourself? Talk a little bit about what your background is and why you're here today.
Yeah, man. I'm coach's kid, so it's kind of, I think, kind of hardwired in my DNA. Growing up, my dad was in the public school system for over 40 years, and being a Lawton, Oklahoma, on a teacher's salary doesn't go very far. So he coached everything that he possibly could coach just to really make ends meet. And for me, it was just growing up in that environment, and so just immersed in the whole coaching dynamic and being able to see information, right? See the growth, see the development. And I fought it for the longest time. Just the path and everything kind of that I went down, and rebelled against school, tried college, just wasn't for me. Ended up getting into a situation through my aunt. She knew I wasn't going down a very good path, and she sucked me out of Oklahoma to California. And I lucked in, Brian, to be honest. I lucked into a situation that was kind of the perfect storm. And it was, late 90s, heading into 2000. And obviously that was kind of the boom of the golf and in golf industry, obviously with Tiger, really responsible for that. And being in California, we were a 36-hole semi-private golf resort. And I had one of those most amazing bosses that really took me under her wing. And she's like, Kitch, you know how to play golf. You can actually kind of teach golf at a high level. That's pretty cool. But you don't know anything about business. You don't know how to run a pro shop. You don't know how to buy marketing, buy product in a golf shop. And being a semi-private golf resort, we got to deal with the public and deal with members. So learning that dynamic of how to just even with the public to raise the price, $3 would change people showing up in tank tops versus people not, right? Like little nuanced things that you don't learn without going through experience. And,
right.
Being able to, find my way into, the real estate space, the real estate industry, by default, by like a lot of agents, massive amount of agents kind of default into the situation. Either they want to invest, or they've got their home they want to sell, or they got some family members they think they can make a quick buck. I defaulted in on the operational side of things. I was in a situation to where just was not going anywhere. Had a 2-year-old and had a newborn on the way, and we were in the bar business at the time. And man, it was just a total train wreck, total disaster. And my good friend, we were junior high school golfing buddies, and we actually were first roommates into college. Mr. Michael Reese knew that I was about to make a jump, and he played matchmaker. He was the connector. He connected me and Kinder together in end of 2004. And man, it's been an interesting and fun ride over the last 20 years. Multiple brokerages, multiple markets, and then getting into the coaching space myself over the last 12 years. And man, just, blessed every day to be able to get up and really do what I love. And that really comes, seamless and natural for me, and kind of understanding how I'm wired, and really look at things and being able to bring that unique experience and perspective into the conversations and into kind of what I get to do day in and day out.
So it's important that we have you here now, because we are currently in a huge transition in the real estate industry. I know there's a lot of anxiety. I think we have a two-headed monster we're dealing with. I was just looking at the numbers last week. I sent out a message to my database, and I was discussing the affordability of houses, trying to provide some context and just a little bit of context. Like, houses are actually twice as expensive as they were in 1960. So people are sort of thinking like, oh, well, you know, it was better then. And you hear people talking about the 80s when they bought their first house, or the 90s, and how bad is it then? And we're currently in the slowest real estate market in our lifetime. Match that with the worst affordability in our lifetime, in America's lifetime, as far as, you know, going back to the 60s. So the 30-year mortgage came around in 1971. It sort of made things easier for people to buy houses. And then on the other side, the other monster here is the NAR lawsuit, basically what they call decoupling, taking the ability for listing agents to secure the commission for the buyer's agents ahead of time, being transparent about all this. There was some conversation about they wanted this to be more transparent. It's obviously far less transparent. Essentially, what they're doing is moving the negotiating of the buyer's agent commission from the time when the listing agreement is signed to the time when the offer is presented. I have some opinions about that, but you know, I wanted you to come on here as a coach and sort of say, like, what's your general feeling towards this transition of having to negotiate the buyer's agency commission at the time of the offer? What do you think that's going to mean for the industry and for buyer's agents, maybe specifically?
Yeah, you know, you look at it, you know, like you said, you know, the thing that has changed is just the articulation of value on the buy side. We've done it always on the listing side, right? Like, you've got to come in, you've got to, you know, articulate your value. What is your process? What is your marketing plan? How are you going to, you know, be able to get a seller a buyer? Because that's all sellers want, right? They want you to be able to find a buyer for their home. If they could do it and get the most amount of money, least amount of hassle, they would do it on their own, right? They try to do it for sell by owners that transact throughout the entire year. So the whole shift, right? I mean, you can look at it a couple different ways. One way is, you know, listing agents are just going to stop negotiating buyer agent compensation. And you look at kind of by default where most agents that get licensed, when they come into the industry, because there is no initial training on, you know, your value proposition, what is going on with who's a real consumer in today's market. I mean, you know the market better than anybody. You study it. I mean, you're obsessed with the market, which I believe you should be as a true professional. You need to know these things. And so you look at as why most agents tend to jump in and they start working with buyers, because how compensation flowed in the past is that as a buyer's agent, you just needed to make a friend, right? You just needed to be friendly, and you need to build relationship. Where it's now changing is now we're getting into conversations about money, about their financial situation, about compensation. Now it's becoming more transactional. And so it is very transactional on the listing side, but now it's going to be transactional on the buy side. You've got to have a value proposition. You got to be able to articulate your value. And then you've got to be able to, ask, for the business. There's ways to structure it. Obviously, we're in a transition period. Hearing agents that they're just, calling, first conversation. Hey, is there, what's the compensation on this?
I got one last night, man. Last night on the way home. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think you'll start to see, that as time goes on and in transition, will there still be some of that? Probably. I mean, that's typical negotiation, right? If you're a skilled negotiator, you know how to negotiate on the buy side, then you're always going to ask, right? You're going to try to ask for as much information as you can so you can present the best possible offer for your and ways to where to negotiate to where you can, get your fee, but also do the best that you can for your client. So I think that's just the big shift. And I think once agents start to get their head around is, okay, well, I had to articulate my value and a value proposition and a process and a marketing plan and a strategy on the listing side. I got to do the same thing. Really is more of a consultative approach, right? How can I be more consultative? How can I sit down with the buyer and hey, Brian, what are you guys trying to accomplish here? What are your goals? Right? What are your your needs, your wants analysis? What's the situation you're in? Where are you at financially? How long are you guys going to be here? Right? All of these questions that a lot of buyer's agents did not intentionally ask prior to. Now, the skilled and the trained agents, yes, but for the majority of agents, the masses, that almost to a point, Brian, that shouldn't even have their real estate license, right? They don't practice enough to be able to really be a true professional in the industry. And, that also comes back into, such a low barrier of entry to getting into the real estate space, being able to get your license.
Yeah, that's always been my solution to this particular issue. I think if we're going to zoom all the way out, we're going to say that the general public has a disdain for the amount of money real estate agents are getting paid based on what they see as the value they're getting out of this. I want to say maybe that's where this all started from. It seems like there was some people in the Justice Department that were saying that real estate agents are making too much money and they're colluding together. I don't think they demonstrated that. I didn't hear any evidence of that, but that's sort of like the general feeling. So this idea that as a buyer's agent, you were by default getting paid your commission and it wasn't from the buyer. So therefore your value proposition was, I'll help you and you don't have to pay me any money. And that seemed like an easy thing. Like you said, all you have to do is be a friend and you sort of walk them through, here's what a home inspection is. Let me help you find my lender. And it was kind of a very friendly, upbeat, positive transaction because they were getting everything and not having to pay for it. When you add this layer of now you're going to have to pay me money, it definitely puts you into that, listing agent presentation mindset where it's like, listen, I'm going to do this for you and here's what you're going to get out of it. And here's why it's going to be beneficial to you. What I'm not convinced of is that is going to be a sellable solution in the long term. So my personal opinion is that if we continue in this seller's market for a long period of time, the market is going to basically sift all this out. Like we don't really ultimately have control because buyers are going to decide to go with whatever option they have. And what I see is that if we stay in a seller's market for a long period of time during this transition, if buyers are continually coming up against having this real estate commission be the barrier to them buying the house that they want to buy, it's going to cause them to then forego this listing agent or this buyer's agent and try to just go directly to the listing agent. Hey, if I go right to the listing agent, I'm going to save, the average house right now is $500,000, give or take. So we're talking about $12,500. If my offer is losing by any fraction of that $12,500, the logical conclusion is I'll just go to the listing agent. The problem that I see with that is the listing agent, if that happens, the listing agent is now tasked with all these buyers who don't have any representation, which creates its own set of problems, but also showing the property. How is that going to take place? Like if I have 5 listings and on a Saturday, I get a showing request on all of them, how am I supposed to service all of these listings? Like to me, the only practical solution is to have some sort of an open house model where you have, this house open on Tuesday and Sunday, and this house open on Wednesday and Saturday, and this house open in the morning, and this one's open in the evening. And if you want to come see the property unrepresented, these are the times that you're going to be able to come see it. So what I've read online is that at this particular time, there's not been a drop in the number of showings, but I think also the amount of compensation probably hasn't adjusted very much at all. From what I can tell, most people are still paying this on the sell side. They're sort of programmed to think that's what they're supposed to do. The offers they're getting have that attached to it all the time. So it seems like our model that we had is kind of holding, and it seems like things are going to work out. But I don't think that that's necessarily going to, carry forward in the long term. So my suggestion is what you just said is create the barrier of entry to become a real estate agent to a place where it's much harder. Like when I became a realtor, I considered being an appraiser. In Maryland, to become an appraiser, you have to have the equivalent of associate's degree. You have to work like 400 or 2,000 hours under somebody else in a training period. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of education that you have to get. And so the barrier of entry is much, much higher. I didn't do it. I became a real estate agent in 17 days while I still was a mortgage lender, closing loans, doing this online class. It took like $1,500. And then I immediately helped this guy sell his house right after that was my first transaction. So yes, make the barrier, but we don't have any control over that. So, my advice, and I think this is the second part of our conversation, is what do you do if you're a real estate agent and you have this fear or you have this assumption that being a buyer's agent is going to be, and I think the one, I'll just say one other thing. The one thing we didn't discuss is whether or not buyers are going to just start paying the buyer's agent. I don't think that the people that I work with, and I'm in the 8th richest county in all of the world, probably, at least in America, Calvert County. The average sales price here is like over 500,000. I don't see most of my clients having the money in the bank. And I was a mortgage lender before I was a real estate agent. Most people don't have an extra $12,000, nor would they easily part with an extra $12,000 to pay that agent. So then it becomes a scenario where, if that's the case, what do you do as a real estate agent? Where do you focus your business? And I think you and I also agree on this. And what's your advice?
Man, I think you look at your ability to be creative in deal structure and being able to really think like an entrepreneur, think like a business owner. I really truly believe in that. A lot of agents right now are getting. It's important to know the game, right? It's very, very important to know the rules of the game to be able to play the game.
Correct.
I believe that you have to push against the guidelines. I'm real careful to say rules to entrepreneurs,
Right.
because entrepreneurs break the rules. That's their mindset, their mantra. So I think you got to understand what are the guidelines to the game. And as an entrepreneur, and most real estate agents, they're going to push the boundary, not to where they break, but they're going to push it. And I believe
find the gray area.
I believe you have to. And so I think understanding that is super important. You need to know the guidelines, you need to know the game, and then you need to set that aside, right? And I think a lot of agents are going to get too consumed. And what you have to understand is that the best real estate agent never wins. Never, ever. And the quicker that you can own that and understand it and start to be like, accept it, is that, I can't focus on being the best real estate agent. I have to focus on being the best marketer. I have to focus on being the best salesman. I have to focus on being the best negotiator. I have to focus on being the best CEO. I have to focus on being the best, in that best leader, and then maybe real estate agent, right? It's
Right.
fourth or fifth down the path.
Right.
So you have to get in and really look at, okay, where are the opportunities, and how am I going to get compensated? Like you said, right now, not much has changed. Might stay this way. Might stay this way for a long time. It may never change. It may still be there. However, I think you have to be, as a business owner, you got to go where you can win and where you can play the game. And if it starts to change to where it's like, hey, listen, man, you're going to have to develop the negotiation ability to be able to structure deal structure to where you can get compensated, even if the buyer's not going to pay you. That's one way to play. I don't know. I think by default, for me, getting into the industry 20 years ago, it was just like, you lead with motivated sellers. You go to sleep, you wake up, you're thinking about motivated sellers, and being able to articulate your value. And what we fundamentally have to come back to, Brian, is that in the absence of value, people question price. And I think, even like you said, to your point, if you're able to articulate your value and the buyers see the value and they see what you're able to do for them, you're able to find off-market properties, you're able to offer the love it or leave it program, you're able to provide a home warranty, you're able to provide all of these things and whatever's in your buyer value advantage. Mm-hmm. And then the question is, if they truly can't pay you, they just don't have the money, then what do you do? What are the financing options? Like, do you then put your compensation on payments? Like, what are all the ways? And I think that's just the mindset that you have to take is, if if I had to get paid, what are all the ways that I would get paid? And it's just a different mindset and a different way to think about it.
I'm right there with you. So you increase the sales price 2.5%, you get paid that way. You assume the appraisal comes in. If in the event you literally can't get paid through this transaction, I think at some point you kind of do what's best for the client, let them buy the house, and then you lean into a referral situation where you're saying, hey, listen, I don't want to get in the way. And this is what I would do. I'm not going to get in the way of you buying this house. I've tried everything. You've been, a good sport, and you've put the offer in, asking for my compensation, raising the price, whatever it is. We couldn't make that happen. So that's probably it. Now, if that happens over and over again, I'm quickly going to go to, which is plan A, honestly, which is what you mentioned. And that is focus on listings, because nobody's having any conversations about listing agents getting paid less. In most situations, it sounds like it's easier for you to get more, and that's what my focus was before this all happened. And it's really what I'm leaning into more heavily after this happens. Like I really am taking even less attention towards buyers, because I don't want to be put in that situation, to be honest with you. I feel like it creates like a murkiness to our relationship where you don't have the money, they're not paying the money, you want to buy the house, and now I'm stuck in the middle. I just don't like that. I don't like that position to be in. I'd rather be in the position of strength, which is the listing agent never got their commission questioned because they had it in writing before this whole thing started. So let's talk about being a listing agent, and what is your sort of focus on the world we live in now? Because the other sort of two-headed monster is the amount of listings is the least that it's been. So you have the same amount of fishermen, smaller size pond, less fish, whatever analogy you want to give, there's less opportunities for you as a listing agent. And my assessment is that the want to move people, which is generally going to be your SOI, are not as abundant. So now we're looking for have to move people. So that to me seems like my focus of attention is finding people that have to move. Either they got a divorce, they're in a financial crisis, they have to move for a job, whatever that is. That's where I think that if you had to strategize, that's where I'd focus my attention.
100%. You and I've talked about this. That's where you got to go first. You got to go after the sellers that have to sell, right? Motivated seller data. The data's out there. The indicators are there. There's a handful of triggers that cause, sellers to have to sell. And, the way data is collected and the way data is available today, the data is there, right? Yeah. So that's where you have to start, and I think through, if my kids were getting into the business today, where would I want them to focus? I mean, first and foremost, back to kind of the point earlier, it's all, mindset first. And really just a mindset of, I always have a move. There's always an angle. There's always an opportunity. And sometimes you have to you might not see the path, but you just have to step there. And for us, being able to ride through 07, 08, 09, to have that experience, to know, the market's moving and the market's moving fast. Where is the opportunity? Because there is always an opportunity. And you just have to be able to maybe sometimes just disengage for a second to be able to kind of see where it's at. But right now, today's market, I believe it's motivated sellers. That's where all of your energy and your effort and your focus should be, around motivated sellers. And what is an offer to a motivated seller? What do they want, right? What's keeping them up at night?
Yeah.
And notice that in business, you can either be a painkiller or a vitamin. We all know vitamins are important. We should take them. However, times get tough, financial situation, we can buy in the vitamins. However, if we have a pain, right, people will run through brick walls to remove the pain. That's why we're better off focusing on being a painkiller. In business, people only buy results, right? Like, think about even buying a pack of gum. You buy a pack of gum because you want a particular result. Well, motivated sellers want a result. They have a pain, and the result is that they want that pain to go away. So what is your value proposition? What is your message? What is your offer to that person? That's what I mean. You've got to think like, from a mindset perspective, but you got to think like a marketer first. And so you got to know who the opportunity is, the customer, what's keeping them up at night, what do they want, and then how do I get them that result? How do I provide that for them? And so motivated seller data offer to motivated sellers is the absolute way to go. And then you've got to be able to have value to be able to remove that. How are you going to do that for them? And it's really developing that value proposition, but then being able to articulate that to them through a consultative approach. No different than how you handle buyers now, is the same way that you have to handle these motivated sellers as well.
So let's back up for just a second. So you had mentioned if your kids are going to get into real estate, here's what you would advise them. Let me ask you this. If you are a semi-successful or successful buyer's agent and you're struggling right now, or you're worried about the future, would you tell somebody like you need to take all of your attention now and become a listing agent? Or would you say lean into the buyer's agent? This is what you're good at. This is what you've got a good skill set for. This is what your personality fits. Lean into a buyer's agent, or do we abandon ship and we go take some courses on how to, articulate that value? Are we in that situation?
Yeah, I think there's opportunity on the buy side as well. I mean, I think knowing the market, you mentioned inventory is still low. I just got off with a client in Cleveland, right? Inventory is not going up. I mean, homes are just sitting on the market a little bit longer, but inventory is not growing. However, I'm in DFW, and there's the most amount of inventory available in DFW in 20 years. More homes available. And there's 3 times the amount of rental properties available in DFW. So housing is not an issue in DFW. Affordable housing is an issue in DFW, but housing in general is not an issue. So you got to know the market connection, conditions. So if you are like, hey, in my market, there's opportunity to on the buy side. Well, great. Well, you need how to articulate your value. So you need to understand what that is, what that means, what that looks like. How do I have the conversation? How do I find out their pains? And here's how I help them solve it. And then being able to ask, kind of being able to get compensated, and I would say,
you're not saying abandon ship. You're saying based on the market, you're saying it's not time to give up the entire dream of being a buyer's agent forever and ever. Amen. Stick with it and just figure out a new, just hang in there for now, see how this goes, become a better buyer's agent, and, work on making sure you get compensated.
And I would say though, Brian, like we talk about on the listing side, is work with motivated sellers only. And so you got to find what is that buyer on the buy side, right? I believe we're in a market of have tos and not want tos.
Correct.
So I would be looking for the motivated on the buy side that, motivated, they have to, but they also have the ability to in today's market.
Right.
And in my conversation, I would want to figure that out as soon as possible. In fact, immediately, pretty much in my first or second conversation with them, I need to know what is their timing, what is their motivation, and then truly what is their ability. Because the last thing that we want to be able to do, if there are fewer home sales, which there are right now, as we're talking, then if I know that if I waste my time on somebody that maybe they're motivated, but they don't have the ability, and I waste my time, that's opportunity cost that I could have reallocated back to other opportunities that could be able to get across the finish line.
So you got to be more focused. You got to be more diligent. You got to be more, more willing to cut situations that aren't beneficial to you, and realize this is a more serious situation. We don't have as much time to spend on things. All right. So let me ask you this. Focusing on motivated buyers and motivated sellers, what is the areas that you would recommend people focus on? Like if I'm going to transition, or I'm trying to restart my business or grow my business, what would be the areas you would focus on?
Yeah, I mean, you got to take an inventory of your assets. I mean, do you have a database? How many contacts? How many do you have in there? We used to, look at our database and, running kind of like a shake the trees campaign to our database. And, the shake the trees campaign to the database is either a home value that leads into kind of more of a top of funnel home value that leads into a cash offer, some type of, you know, uh, offer that you can make to them, that's going to help solve their pain. I think on the buy side, if you have new construction available to you, I think that's an easy hook. Think about what buyers want, right? Buyers immediately, kind of start their search looking for eye candy. Then they get into kind of market conditions, market area before they dive a little bit deeper. They get to know kind of the areas at some place that they want to live. School's important, proximity to certain things, important, not important. And so being able to run some type of buyer, I think right now in the opportunity on for buyers is going to be new construction, price reduced, because there's a lot of agents right now that don't know how to position and price homes. So you're seeing a lot of price reduction, price reduced type of homes in the marketplace. But I think the big hook, the big offer, Brian, to buyers is off market, right? Being able to provide a list of homes off market. I think when you're doing, following Hormosi's core four, you got to be marketing, touching your database. You've got to be on social media. You and I've talked about this. The agents that are thriving right now have a couple things going. One of them that they have going for them that are really crushing it right now. They have a strong social media presence. They're consistent on social. They have a great mix of properties. They have a great mix of information. They have a great mix of family. They have a great mix of hobbies, and it's just a good consistent mix of social. They then have great video, doing a lot of great things with video in their social aspect, also leveraging video to their database, being able to have strong video. Some of them have a strong YouTube presence, YouTube channel, depending if the market calls for that, as you've gone down that path. And then your other, are you running some ads? Well, I don't have the money to invest and run ads. That's great. But if I was to run some ads, what ads would I run? I would run new construction. I would do price reduced. I would do, my offer to my database is off market homes, cash offers, cash value, guaranteed sale type of hooks into the database. But if I'm going to do the cold outreach, right, and this is one of your strategies, because you don't have a problem of picking up the phone and talking to people. And so if you don't have a problem of picking up the phone and talking to people, or you're finally to the point, right, your back's against the wall, you got to be having
it's go time. Like some of us, this is our only source of income. We have to make the cash register ring. It has to happen.
Motivated seller data, right? You can find, different triggers, different sources that provide X number of opportunities. Skip trace for pennies on the, for pennies to be able to skip trace, get contact information, and making the touches. And I think that's really where you've got to go all in. I think too, if you live in a community to where you can get involved, if you have kids, get into the school, get to know the parents. If you're golf course community, be active, be visible, be up there. So I think just really kind of all in on what it is you're trying to do. I don't believe real estate agents can be half in, half out moving into the future.
Especially today. So let's wrap up with this. If you are speaking to, and I'm sure some people watching this have contemplated getting out of this business, they feel like the future is not bright, that it's getting dimmer, and they're having a harder and harder time. What are the decision-making processes you would walk somebody through on whether or not to stay in this business, or if they are going to stay in this business, what is the mindset they need to succeed?
Yeah, I think the thing that they have to go back and is, what did you love about real estate that got you into the business in the first place? And I think sometimes things get real hard and we lose focus of that bigger picture of why we made the decision in the first place. I think then revisiting kind of who you are, does it align to your values? Do you have, a purpose, designing your real estate career, your real estate business. And I think what we lose sight of when we get in this circular world, right? Am I moving in a known direction? Am I taking the right steps? Am I doing the things within my control that's moving the business forward? And a lot of the times the answer is no, right? I've become paralyzed. I'm trying to do too much. And, as people, we can be hybrid a little bit, but for the most part, we're either a project person or a process person. Most salespeople are people that love the variety. They are project focused, meaning we love the variety. That's why I love to coach, right? Every client's different. Every situation's different. Every seller situation, every buyer situation, they're different. We love that, right? It's like a project. We want to see it to completion. The problem with project-based people, Brian, is that sometimes it's hard to focus. So we don't really know where to focus, what we need. And back to what I said, the very first thing is mindset is everything. And one of that CEO ownership mindset is that I have to be able to look in the mirror and know that I can't do it on my own. I need help. And, growing up, especially, for me growing up in a coach's home, you would think, being able to do that, but it's like blue collar, hard working, like, man, I'll just figure this shit out myself. Right. I got this. Mm-hmm. And that could hold us back in so many ways. And I think, the biggest aha for me with this was, I had just finished my first marathon, and I ran a marathon when I turned 40 because my mom passed 2 months shy of her 40th birthday. So I wanted to do something that really pushed me, that I didn't believe I could do, which at the time I had only run, the beer 5K runs and stuff like that. Just the fun.
When you say marathon, what are you referring to?
26 miles, running 26.2, right? Just a typical full marathon. So I just finished that, and I had the opportunity to be in the audience. Jesse Itzler was on stage, and Jesse is one of the, he's the Dos Equis guy. Him and Matthew McConaughey are like the most amazing, most interesting men on the planet. But
right,
Jesse is truly that way, and he's, the worst things for us to do as human beings is that we accomplish a big milestone and we don't immediately reset the goal, right? We don't immediately reset it, and I hadn't reset it, and so I ended up taking on a full Ironman, which is triathlon, which is 2.4 miles swim, 112 miles on the bike, and then a marathon. Well, I knew what it took to do a marathon, but I started going down this path, Brian, thinking that I could figure this out on my own. And I get about 2 months out from the race, and I'm like, dude, I don't even know how to get my bike there. I don't know what transition is, nutrition. Like, what am I supposed to be doing? I was lost. And it was one of those moments. It was like, dude, you're an idiot. Like, you're a coach. You're trying to figure this out on your own. And it was one of those like, aha in the mirror moments of, dude, you need help and it's okay. Get a coach. And so what I would tell real estate agents right now, if you're struggling and you're thinking about getting out of the business, I think you have two options. One, get a coach, right? First and foremost, or get on a team. Get on a team that has great leadership, that aligns to your values, that provides opportunities, that gets things off of your plate so you can just focus on the things that are within your control to move your business forward. And in real estate, there's only like 4 or 5 things that actually absolutely matter. So that would be my answer to anybody that's wavering right now. Hey, do I stay in? Do I get out? Find a team and get a coach. That would be my advice.
I'm going to second all that. I actually went that exact route. I tried to find a team. Many of you watching this video, I probably reached out to you, wasn't able to find a good fit, got a coach. He's on the other side of the screen right here. So yeah, that's definitely good advice. And I think the only thing I would add to that is you need to be brutally honest about the reality of this situation. We are not in Kansas anymore. This is not an easy business anymore. This is not a gravy train anymore. If you're in a situation like me where this is the sole income for your family and you need this money, you have to be deadly serious about this. And we know that the hardest part about real estate is you get one deal falls in your lap, you might make $20,000, $30,000, and then you might go, a long period of time without making money. And you have to learn how to live like that emotionally and mentally. That can be hard. And when things are hard, that kind of bears down on you. That's why you need to have people around you to give you that perspective. Hey, what you're spending all your time on is silly. You're not going to make any money doing that. You need to change up. You need to do something different. So I'm with you 100% on all this, John. Like, we pretty much agree on everything. So just as a general perspective of the future, are you hopeful about the real estate future? Do you think real estate agents are going to go the way of Blockbuster, of taxi cabs, of um, what do you call those, travel agents, like all these people that used to make a lot of money in these industries? Overnight an app came along or a new system came along. Is this one of those moments in time where we need to wake up and realize, hey, it's going to be a lot different and your industry is getting demolished? You need to either, step up or step out. Is this one of those times?
No, I really believe, though, we're seeing a divide, and we're going to see the true. I think you said, the word. You have to be obsessed, right? You have to be obsessed with being the best leader, the best CEO, the best marketer, the best sales, the best negotiator, best agent. You have to be obsessed and be willing to make that commitment. And then it's just going to be a divide, right? You're going to find, a race to the bottom, what we call the AFAs, the average frustrated agent. And then you're going to see the true experts, the true expert advisors. And I don't think we're going to see a lot of change. I mean, we'll see a divide, a thinning of the herd, if you will, probably through the decade. After that, who knows, right?
Yeah, who knows, right?
Terminator may be here by then. So, but
Yeah.
I think we're going to ride through the end of the decade. No matter what, it'll always come down to a decision of trust. There's still the elite, true experts and advisors, even in the industries that have been completely disrupted through, innovation and technology. I mean, there's still high-end experience makers, right? You said the travel advisor, but they focus on creating the experience because they listen to what you're wanting to accomplish, and they help craft and design the agenda for you to have those magical moments.
Yeah. Rich people still have travel agents.
Look at I can jump on Lyft or Uber. I can jump on Lyft or Uber, right? However, if I want a car, right, I can also high end somebody to come pick us up and that knows our ins and outs and where to be, right? So there's always in every industry, there's still the best of the best. And so I think for you as an agent, you've got to just become obsessed with being the best professional, the best leader, the best CEO that you possibly can be. And then lean into the AI, the innovation, the technology to complement what it is that you're doing to collapse time and add more value. And I think it's just your approach and how you go about it. I'm very optimistic into the future. I think those that are true professionals that really are committed to being a professional will thrive.
I'm going to agree with you on that point. I'm going to say it a little bit differently, in that the higher end of the market, people that have money and make money and see the world more business minded, understand the concept of trading time for money. They know if they hire a real estate agent, they can collapse time. You can have somebody go out and look at houses for you. In many cases, we do that. On the listing side, we can kind of handle all the stuff, and you're going to trade time for money, and we're going to give you a result. People that are on the higher end of life understand that model better, and it's easier to sell them. They're much more easy to sell. The ones that don't have any money, it's a whole nother situation. So focusing on the higher end of the market, it probably also makes sense. So John, I appreciate you, man. I think that was very solid advice for everybody. I think that was, I'm going to stamp everything you said. I think it was great. And I appreciate you coming on today. So is there anything else you want to
I think your point that you said right there, man. We talked about the motivated. However, I think there's a certain price point that you want to stay in. There's a certain, understanding kind of what's really happening and what's really happening in our industry. And if you are a student of real estate, a student of the industry, follow the money, you know what's happening, right? You know, the institutional investor, they want to wipe away, they're consuming and gobbling up as much of the real estate, you know, entry level, lower price point homes. Even investors, not even the institutional investors, are trying to gobble a lot of that up. So you're better off positioning your brand, your message to a higher end look, feel. That's would be my other piece of advice in positioning your brand to that point. So thank you for hitting on that there at the end, because that is a very, very big decision.
I agree 100%. So thank you, John. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, brother. Awesome, man. Do it again.